Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. Tonight I had the great honor of interviewing the filmmaking team of Cristina Nava and Patrick Perez Vidauri. Cristina is a writer and producer, and Patrick's a director. And they have a film coming out on the 9th of December here called Divorce Bait. So we got into that and also some of the other work that they've done. Just a great filmmaking team, and just had a great time talking to them. So I hope you all enjoy the interview. Here it is.
The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist, with your host, Dave Hondel.
All right, so welcome to the show, Patrick and Cristina.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. I know in the intro I talked about your big film coming up, Divorce Bait, opening on the 9th of December. So, I just want to talk about that a little bit because I know that it's been in the works for a while, but, talk about that release. I know it's limited release in some of the cities, but it's also on Apple TV Plus, correct?
It's on all rental video on demand platforms. So Vudu, Roku, everything. Yeah.
iTunes.
Anywhere you could rent your movies.
Amazon Prime, I think, as well.
Cable.
And let's talk about that quick because, as a team together, working together, you've been in the industry for a while now. Talk about all the different streaming platforms there are out there because, back in the day when I was growing up, we had three networks, right? ABC, NBC, and CBS, and that was it. But now with the hundreds of different streaming platforms, it gives, not only actors a different way of showing their work, but it also gives directors, producers, and writers, different avenues to show their work as well. So what are your thoughts about where we are now and where we're going in the future with that type of medium?
Well, like you were saying, when we were growing up, there was Blockbuster, and that's where you went to get your movies.
Yeah.
And truthfully, like the income, that provided was guaranteed. It was a very solid source of income for filmmakers. Now there's so many diverse platforms, and they pay in all kinds of different ways, and it's just so hard to kind of gauge how much you're going to make as a filmmaker, as far as income goes. And I guess on the positive side, there's so many more ways to distribute your film for people to see your film. But then again, you're still running up against the problem of competition, right? When people are looking for what to watch tonight, there's so many choices that, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle unless you have a big name, a big star, some sort of a rave reviews. Thankfully, people love our films. We're indie, but we pack a punch, I guess you could say, and we have some loyal fans. The film we made, in other words, that we made before Divorce Bait, has 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, has a loyal fan base. It just keeps going and going, and we expect Divorce Bait to do similar business in the sense that it's funny. It's kind of a perspective people don't really see a lot. So, we hope it does well. It'll go to streaming, and then it'll go to theatrical and streaming, and then it'll end up landing on one of the major streaming platforms. It's really up to Samuel Goldwyn Pictures, who acquired the film for distribution, to decide the path of the film.
Yeah. And I know as a writer, Cristina, I guess, where do you draw your inspiration, I guess, for a film like that? How do you draw your inspiration? Because I know with a romantic comedy, you can watch, Lifetime, and there's romantic comedy after romantic comedy, but, setting yourself apart with your film, how do you draw inspiration and how do you make it different, I guess, and stand out against the other rom-coms that are out there?
Well, I do want to mention that Divorce Bait is more on the side of a raunch-com.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little bit raunchy. It's sexy. It's an adult comedy, kind of in the vein of Girls Trip,
okay.
Bridesmaids, where they have, they're just sexy. And so that's kind of like this particular one was where we were wanting to push the envelope a little bit. And we did set it in a suburban area, Porter Ranch, which is where we live, and kind of realistic. The idea was sort of from like kind of we're trying to find something during COVID, and the idea within Grandave Capital and Migrant Filmworks that we were working with at the time, we talked about various ideas of, like a social experiment. And then Ruben Islas, who is the co-writer, pitched this idea that he and his wife, his fiance at the time, that they had experienced. And then together we came up with Divorce Bait, about this, happily married housewife who goes on social media to post that she and her husband are getting a divorce, just to see who is going to reach out to him and hook up.
Yeah. Great. That's a great idea. I mean, it really is. When Justin was telling us a little bit about the story, I mean, I was like, wow, that's genius. I mean, that's something that you could really see happening, with the social media age right now. I mean, whether it's TikTok or, things are really pushing the envelope on all the social media platforms right now, but especially like TikTok, where people are just out there and they're really, it's like definitely pushing the envelope. And I think that's a great storyline. So it opens up on the 9th, but have you had any kind of reviews or anything like that, or that you can share with that, how it's doing so far, just with people that have seen it?
Yeah, we've been to a couple festivals, and just like we packed the house. People are cracking up and having a great time with it. It kind of got purchased pretty quickly. And so we weren't able to really have a big festival run with it. But there was a bidding war between Lionsgate and Samuel Goldwyn. They both wanted it. And it's the first time we were involved in something like that. And so
I just want to add that some of the comments that were made with the couple of screenings we've had were just really like, I laughed so hard and I really needed it. This was last year, 2021, when we had like our first screening. 2020 was such a hard year, and 2021 wasn't too much better, but I think people just needed to laugh. And it reminds me actually of like something about Mary, how was like that somebody said that, like, I started laughing and like, I'm crying laughing. So,
well, seeing it in the theater was awesome because, there were certain parts where people laughed so hard, you couldn't even hear the next joke,
Right.
And I remember that happening when I saw something about Mary. Personally, I probably never laughed that hard in my life.
Me too.
The Fairley Brothers. Yeah, it's so funny. But we pushed the envelope with this. There were many times where I was directing a scene and I'd look at Cristina and say, like, I'm never going to work again. We've gone too far this time.
No, Patrick, as a director, like I said, when I was directing music videos, obviously there's shorts here and, short videos, but, the one thing as a director that I just absolutely it became a spiritual experience when you have something, that you conceive, an idea that you conceive, and you go through that directing process, and, you shoot scenes, and, sometimes you look at the scene, it doesn't look like much until it's obviously edited with music and everything else. But when it's all put together and you finally see the final edited product, I mean, what is that for you as a director like? I mean, what kind of feeling does that come over you, like that kind of experience where it's like, I can't believe this is amazing, I made this, or I directed this? It's a pretty cool feeling, right?
Yeah, I guess it kind of snowballs in the sense that, you kind of get a feeling. I mean, there's some sort of a chart that's like the journey of an artist, and it's like you finish shooting, you're like, I'm a genius. Then you start editing, you're like, I'm an idiot. This is horrible. Then you were like, wait a minute, this is pretty good. Then you're like, holy shit, this is really good,
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening for me was when I passed it off to the composer, he was like, dude, my wife is cracking up at this. She thinks it's hilarious. And, to have that outside kind of view, right. His wife is not in the industry. He's a musician, not a filmmaker.
Sure.
They loved it. And he kept telling me, this is going to be a hit, man. This is going to be a hit. And I was like, yeah. I know it's good, and I know, but I think they may be right.
Well, and Cristina as a writer, you got to feel the same way. I mean, these are your words that are being, brought across on the screen. And when you write something, obviously there's rewrites and everything like that. But when you actually get to the shooting of, principal photography, do you ever kind of look at things and then the way it's delivered, you kind of look back and like, maybe we should change it. Did you guys ever do that on the fly, or do you ever look at scenes where you
All
might
the
change
time.
it?
One of the luxuries that I had about was like I got to be on the set, and I got to work, so watch the actors and sometimes what they were presenting really worked because it really worked, and they took it to another level. There were other times where the words, the script or whatnot wasn't working, and we worked it out on the fly. Patrick worked it out with them on the fly. They're just that was really something that I loved about it, and just being able to watch them hear the words and then cringe at times because it's not working, and then they fixed it.
Yeah, I could go approach Cristina and say, hey, this isn't really working for them. They can't say it. Is it okay if they say this or that? Then she will have ideas too and say, what if they do this? And also with Ruben, and we were able to like fix scenes on the fly, and that's one of the big benefits of working together.
But the real for me as a writer all the time, the thing I love is seeing what the actors do with it, seeing what the director does with it, because honestly, I've learned to just let go. And it was really hard in the beginning, like when I was new at this, right?
Yeah.
But I do feel like at some point you just have to surrender. Like it's written, then it's rewritten with the director, and it's rewritten with the actors, and then in the editing it's rewritten. So I feel like you do have to let go, and it's something that I had to learn.
Like trust, you got to trust the process, right?
Yeah.
Working together. I think it goes without saying eventually, but producer, director. Do you guys? On set, do you ever bump heads?
Never.
Right. But how do you, that dynamic? How do you handle that? Because you got to go home at the end of the night, right?
He sleeps on the couch a lot.
No, kidding. Not kidding. No. We thankfully we get along pretty well, and we do have our arguments, and we do have our disagreements.
Sure.
But we've been getting better at it, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of a learning curve, and you have to get used to the process of being 24/7 with your producer.
Right.
Like sometimes we try to shut it off and we can't. We're like, let's not talk about film anymore, and then we have nothing to talk about.
It's like dead silence. Yeah.
Yeah. Dead silence.
But I have to agree with Patrick. Yeah. I feel like in Divorce Spate, I got to be on set a lot. And so I just as a producer as well and writer, I'll help out with, perspective on wardrobe or this or that, and then this last project that we did together in San Antonio that we'll tell you about in a little bit. I did as a producer this time around, like I was only a producer and I wasn't on set as much. And Patrick actually said, like, I really miss you on set. Like, that was really nice to hear,
Sure. Yeah.
That it was like just with
team.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So I think like that's where I feel like things get better, where we feel like we do miss each other or miss that collaboration because we are good creatively.
Yeah.
Not just as husband and wife, but creatively, I think we support each other.
How did you guys meet? I guess it's in film school, right? But how did that come about? Was there a project you were working on together, or how did that?
Yeah, we
well, the first time we met.
No, let's just do the second time.
Okay.
So I was on a radio show in LA on KPFK. And I was on that show for 10 years as one of the co-hosts. It was kind of like a comedy satire show.
Sure.
There were four of us. It was kind of, a group setting. And we were kind of crazy, and we had a reputation of
was chaos.
Being a tough, we have a reputation of like being kind of a tough room to be in. And so Cristina showed up. She was promoting a one-woman show that she had written, and she was performing it. And we had met years earlier teaching kids art. I taught filmmaking. She taught theater. So she walks into the room, to the studio.
And I was nervous.
She was scared.
I was nervous. I was really nervous because they had the reputation of just being really chaotic and and my producer, who's a woman as well, could not be there. And so I was there on my own. But when I walked into the
she
room,
walked into the lion's den, and then she knew me, and she goes, "Wait a minute, I know you."
and I just I felt like, ooh, okay, I know this person,
Right. So a little bit of a relief. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a relief.
Lots of relief.
So she was our first guest, and when we had met each other before, we were in our 20s and we were dating other people.
Right.
And it's the first thing she says is like, "Are you still seeing that girl?" And I was like, "No." "Are you still seeing that guy?" And she's like, "No." And we just kind of like, So right after the radio show was over, I asked her out for a drink, and then that's it.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Well, that's great. That's a great story. I love to hear stuff like that. I know you've both worked on. I mean, I know you worked with Will Ferrell in the past, Patrick, and I know Cristina. You've written for like Chris Kattan and some other big names. And when I know that HBO Max was the one who put out In Other Words, correct?
Yeah.
And is it still out there? I mean,
still there.
Yeah,
it's still there. Okay,
it's a great holiday movie on HBO Max called In Other Words. It's a romantic
holiday movie.
Well, it's it's a romantic comedy. It's a good one for the family. Yeah,
that's good. The other thing I want to get into, we have a lot of artists that listen to our show, like that they're just getting started in their careers, and in your many years in the business, I guess we'll start with you, Patrick. What kind of advice would you have for somebody just starting out, that maybe a budding director, somebody that wants to get out there and do some of their work? Because I know that a lot of people feel that they can't, if they don't have a lot of money or they don't have a budget, that they can't make their film. And I guess as a director myself, I would say just get a camcorder and do it, or even a phone nowadays, right? But what, in your opinion, what can you give our listeners out there to kind of give them inspiration?
Yeah, I think it's like a 3-part advice. The first thing is just do it. When you want to start, just start making, because you're never going to start great. You have to fail, and you have to make some crappy films that probably are near unwatchable before you get to start being good. And the other thing is that it's not a straight line. You don't, for the most part, start directing and keep directing and then become a great director. In my experience, it's a crooked line. And so my other piece of advice is say yes to everything. If you get a chance to produce, do it. If you get a chance to edit, do it. If you get a chance to be a cinematographer or whatever, you may think like, well, that's not my goal, but you're going to learn a lot. And you're going to learn how to work with others, and you're going to learn to be a professional. And eventually, if you stay persistent, and that's my third piece of advice, is persistence. If you keep your eyes on the prize, even if you kind of take a crooked path to the prize, you could bring your career back to your original goal. And that's what I've done. It's like I've had a 10-year career as a professional editor. And that experience really made me a better director. I know how to what I need to shoot and what I don't need to shoot. Right. When I'm crunched for time, I know exactly what I have to get to make the scene work. If I have more time, I could play and get other shots. But having that experience as an editor really informs my work and made me a better director.
Yeah, that's great advice. And Cristina, I guess from the writing aspect of things, whether it's for theater, we have a lot of theater writers out there that are listening, and whether it's theater, TV, film. What's your advice as a writer, like somebody that wants to get something in front of somebody? I guess what kind of advice can you give them as a budding writer out there?
It's very similar, I think, to what Patrick started off by saying, is like just write. Write daily if you can, even if you're just journaling. You never know where the journaling, like, for example, I'll talk a little more about it, but I was hired to write a play about a memoir. And this particular author, the memoir was based on all her diary journals, her entries that she was writing down, especially when her mother passed away. So she turned her journals and her diary into a book, and now it's becoming a movie. So just write, and also just on the other, the other thing was that I didn't come into writing, or I didn't start really taking myself seriously as a writer until I was probably in my mid-20s. And that was sort of not committing to it, but know that you can make money as a writer. And, and I was told very early on, like, oh, no, you should do something else, doctor, lawyer, whatever, because, writers don't make money. Well, that's not true. Once you become a good writer, and you can make good money at it. And so just keep it up, write every day if you can. Put yourself out there, just like Patrick is saying. Some of this stuff is going to be horrible, and that's okay. If you can write for an actor, if you can write for, just do it. And especially now with like TikTok and all these mediums, like you can try stuff out and they'll let you know if it's good or not, I didn't have that luxury, before. And my one woman show was probably more along the lines of that, just kind of putting myself out there. And that was like somebody else believing in me and helping me curate something. But that was after years of like really just putting myself out there as much as I could by writing for myself and writing for others.
Yeah, that's great too. Thank you for that, Cristina. And Patrick, I know you both, work a lot with the Latin community in film, and I know that's near and dear to my heart, as well as my wife and I. I mean, been together for a long time, and my wife's from Honduras, and so a lot of the things that we watch are from the Latin community. We love watching that type of film and TV programming. So talk about that a little bit, championing that type of, filmmaking. So I think it's important right now, because I don't know that we're where we need to be when it comes to that type of Latin type filmmaking. So what is your opinion on that? And where do you think we are, and where can we be in the future when it comes to Latin filmmaking?
Well, I think that people still ask me when I tell them that, I make films, they're like, is it in English? Yes, it's in English. People expect the Latin perspective to be either Spanish or unintelligible. But if you see some of the highest grossing films like the Fast and the Furious or others, or like Wednesday, Addams, which is huge right now,
right?
To have Latino people, or at least diversity, featured in your film is a huge plus. But Hollywood doesn't seem to have gotten that message. When I started filmmaking, I thought like, wow, look at the demographics. We're now the largest minority in the United States. In many states, we are the majority, like in California and Texas, Latinos are the majority, for instance.
Right.
But it's not reflected in cinema. And what I thought coming in was like, well, I'll be ahead of the market. Like if I start making films for this demographic, the demographic will come to see these films, and I'll have a corner of the market type of thing. But that really hasn't happened. We're still at like 2% of speaking roles.
Yeah,
most of those roles are criminals, bad guys, drug dealers, or people crossing the border. So Cristina and I, we believe in championing not just Latino, but diversity in front of the camera, that we include, all colors of Americans, Asian, Black, white, everybody, Indian Americans, everybody is in our films. And we'd like to have Latino leads also in the leading roles who are not stereotypical. So they're like, for instance, in Divorce Bait, this couple happens to be a Latin couple, but they aren't, it doesn't mean anything other than they're married and they're having trouble in their marriage. There's no specific Latino theme in it, because as we're just doctors, lawyers, friends, business owners, drivers, producers, we're everything.
Right,
we don't have to be talking about being drug mules or narcos or all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
The vast majority of us are just upstanding citizens, good Americans. and that's how we want to be portrayed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then behind the camera, Cristina, I talk about this a lot because one of the things that we push on our show is, where women are, in bigger roles in cinema and film and that type of thing. So where do you think that we are with, women as producers, directors, writers like yourself? I mean, where do you think we are right now? And I mean, obviously we're not where we should be, but I mean, are we getting to that point where we're on the right track?
Well, I feel like we're probably better than when I was growing up. So when I think of my children and what they're watching, I think we're in a better place than that. I think television or episodics are doing it right. Like Patrick mentioned Wednesday, but I'm also like watching La Brea, and Nick Gonzalez is on there, and this there's many Latinos, and it's diverse. I see a lot of diversity in television, and that's what we kind of we're trying to do in film. In film, we've discovered it's a little harder because when you go to sell a movie, we no longer have like the blockbusters, or the people who are going to sell, the Latinos that are going to sell a movie are few and far between. I could probably count them on one hand. And they also are kind of aged out, right? Because now the Selma Hayeks or the J-Los of the world are no longer 25 or 35. And so now we don't have our J-Los and Selmas to cast, and who will sell a film, which is different in film than in television. Yeah. And so what Patrick and I have done, and we continue to do and have consciously done this, is kind of a formula where we take a look at who are our up and coming J-Los and Selmas of the future, of the now actually. And we surround them with artists that are up and coming. Divorce
or of bigger stature,
I'm not up and coming. Yeah. That already have a name. Yeah. Divorce Bait was a little bit different. That one's an interesting, that was really interesting because Divorce Bait was written and produced and edited during the pandemic. Like literally November of 2020 is when we shot it. Wow. And that was at the height of the pandemic. We almost got shut down, but by some miracle, they said the film industry could stay open. And so our partner, our business partner, wanted just to make any movie. He wanted and it was going to be non-union. It was going to be low budget. It was going to be all these things, but he wanted to make a movie. And so we did it, and it didn't really have any like stars per se, like, any J-Los or
with Chris Kattan,
Marquis
no
names.
Yeah. But the concept was really good. The writing was good. I'm not just tuning my own, but it was good production value. And so when Samuel Goldwyn and Lionsgate had a bidding war, we were really surprised, because they're really going on the concept, this kind of concept that is a universal theme of insecurity amongst a marriage, this social experiment within a marriage is something that everybody can grasp. Yeah. You don't have to be Latino, Caucasian, Anglo, Asian. You don't have to, you just get it.
Right. It could be it'd be any marriage. Correct.
Yeah. So that one kind of was not our typical formula.
It definitely defied our expectation because like we're always told that you have to have a star to make a good sale. And this one didn't. I mean, Justin Birdie is a wonderful actor, and so is Vanessa Vasquez, her co-star. And we have a lot of really strong talent. They're just not household names. I think they should be, and maybe they will be.
Yeah, Eric Fellows is amazing. They all are. Joe Nunez, like these actors.
Yeah, Eric's great too. Yeah, we've interviewed him before.
Okay.
Yeah. So
for me, as a viewer, as an audience member, I mean, sometimes I enjoy not knowing like every single person that's in the production. I mean, that's just my opinion. But you guys both have something big that you just finished. I mean, some of the work that you just did, but is there anything you can tell our audience what we can get excited about next? I mean, do you have something coming up?
Well, let me say two things. One of them is that after Divorce Bait, I went to New York City and shot another film that'll be coming out in January called Townhouse Confidential. And so we were busy during COVID.
Yeah.
Nobody got sick on any of our films. So
that's good.
Yeah. And but we just returned from Texas where we shot another romantic comedy, this time written by one of the producers from the original Selena movie. Nancy De Los Santos wrote the script. It's another rom-com. I got a chance to direct it. Cristina produced. And, the star of it is a multi-platinum recording artist known for the song Despacito, Luis Fonsi.
Oh, wow.
And, he wrote an original song for this rom-com, and it's gorgeous. And
wow.
He's been in television, but he wants to break into film. So we got this international superstar to come and be part of our film, and we're just ecstatic.
Executive produced by Edward James Olmos.
Wow. That's fantastic. Wow, that's great.
Chris Kattan's back with us and working with us again.
One of my favorite actors. I love Chris.
He is fabulous.
He's so funny.
Bananas.
Yeah.
So we just had a great time. It's a bigger budget than some of the other ones we've done. So we're just very excited about it. That one's called The Answer to My Prayer. And that one won't be out for a couple of years, but But
the actors that I do want to mention are Vanessa Vasquez again. We got to work with her again. Vivian Lamoli and Jackie Cruz, who was on Orange Is the New Black.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, definitely. That was a great show.
Yeah, definitely.
Great show.
So we had a really strong cast, and shooting in San Antonio, Texas was a joy.
Oh yeah, Riverwalk.
Riverwalk, baby.
Riverwalk.
All about the Riverwalk. Yeah. So we're really excited about that one. We think it's going to come out great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cristina, I'm going to start with you on this. But I ask everybody this question because I think I love getting the answers, and I think we all want to leave a legacy behind, no matter, if it's, now or when we've retired, somewhere down the road. We want people to think of us in a certain way when it's all said and done. So what do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done?
Ooh, that's a heavy one. it kind of took me meeting Patrick to find the courage and the support to follow my dream, which was to be a writer. I produce because I kind of have to. We went in through the back, like Hollywood's back door entrance, with these indie projects. But my real passion is to be a writer. And I think that for me, my legacy to my children, number one is that they find the courage, and we will be there to support them to follow their dreams. So that's what I want. I want to continue writing, to write as much as I can, until I can write no more, to show my children that, number one, it's never too late, but that also, that you shouldn't give up on your dreams. And by doing that, my dream of being a writer has already come true, but I want to make a living, continue to make a living at it, and leave that as the legacy for my children.
Well, that's incredible. That's awesome. How about you, Patrick?
You never know who you inspire, and just the fact that you wake up every day and push your dream forward and do your best ends up motivating others to do the same. And I got some messages from somebody on social media saying, like, your work inspires me to follow my dreams. And so that's important to me, that we be an inspiration to people who feel like maybe they're not part of the industry or could never be part. They feel like outsiders, that they can apply themselves and make it in this industry through hard work and dedication. So I want to push the needle on representation. I want to be known not only as a great director, but someone who pushed the needle on inclusivity, on the representation of Latinos in the U.S. cinema. I want that to be part of my legacy, but I also want my legacy to be one of inspiration of the next generation, that they can follow their dreams as well.
Well, that's amazing as well. And that's why we do this show. Exactly. Both of your words. I mean, just perfectly said. We do this for those people out there to be an inspiration to those indie artists that are just maybe struggling or maybe think that they can't make it because of budgetary reasons or whatever it is. You guys are both inspirations to myself and to our listeners. So I can't thank you enough for being on the show tonight. And, best of luck to, Divorce Bait that's coming out on the 9th. I know it's already going to be a hit. And just, best of luck in the future projects that you've already shot and that you're going to shoot. Again, thank you for being on our show. Can't thank you enough. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Stage Door Show tonight. Please support Gary Maselli, who did our intro for season 2. Go to Instagram.com/Gary Maselli, GaryMiceli.